Hi there, everyone. Been a while since I've done one of these, but this is a Horus Heresy version 3.0 battle report. Steve contacted me just as the new Heresy rules were released, and I agreed I'd run through a 1500 point battle report and evaluate the new rule set before I decided whether to condemn them or not. Those not in the know, a lot of controversy with the release of the new version 3 Heresy rules. A lot of people were talking boycotting the rule set completely and staying with version 2. I'm not going to go into the whys. There's lots of other sites that will go into the details for that. Sufficient to say I'm willing to try out the rules. So this was a simple report to test the rules, and now unfortunately I couldn't record the video due to technical issues, i.e. very loud people, so I'm trying this old style photo report. So Steve's Night Lord army, the primary detachment had Praetor and a couple of heroes. This allowed him to get the armored support detachment and a heavy assault detachment and a support detachment. So he had 2 units of 10 tactical troops riding in rhinos, a 15-man assault squad of some sort with jump packs, a Sakaran battle tank, a Vindicator, a rapier battery of 2 rapiers with crew, and Tartarus Terminator squad that the Praetor would walk around with. Sorry, I don't have the new codex for heretics. I don't know if there were any Night Lord specific units. I forgot to ask Steve. Thankfully, the PDF came out with some of the missing Space Wolf units and options that I wouldn't normally be able to use to play a legal army. So my primary detachment was the Praetor, a Caster of Ruins and Terminator armor, and a Speaker of the Dead, which is what I really needed from the PDF. I had 2 10-man tactical squads, sergeants with power weapons and melta-bombs, a 10-man Slayer squad with combat shields, Forensian axes, pistols, a sergeant with a thunder hammer, and 2 troopers with power fists. And from those 2 hero choices, I chose an armored support and a walker support. And the armored was the Kratos tank with all las cannons, and the walker support was the Contemptor with the Melta, Power Fist, and Havoc launcher. So Night Lords won the dice roll and made the Space Wolves deploy first. We did a classic Dawn of War deployments using the Take and Hold mission from the main rulebook. Space Wolf deployment left to right. We had Tactical Squad with the Praetor behind the ruin, Contemptor Dreadnought behind a crumbling tower, Slayers hiding in the ruin with the Caster of Runes, and the second Tactical Squad behind a wall with the Speaker of the Dead. Finally, we put the Kratos on the far edge. I admit I was hiding everything from the Rapiers and the Vindicator because they hadn't deployed yet. So as a result, this is a really bad deployment and it would cost me later. Meanwhile, the Night Lord deployment, left to right, we had a Vindicator in the ruins, a Rapier weapon battery, Rhino with a squad of tacticals, the assault troops, Rhino with tacticals, and a Sakaran in the ruins, and the Tartarus Terminators with the Praetor in reserve waiting to deep strike. So Space Wolves took first turn. On the right hand side of the map, the Kratos advanced maximum speed but couldn't round the corner to draw a line of sight to anything. The Tactical Squad and the Speaker of the Dead rushed forward and just made it within the 3 inches of the objective. In the end phase, this will give me 5 points. 3 points for the objective and 2 for line troops being involved. On the left side of the field, the Contemptor moved forward and shot at the Rapier battery, destroying one of the Rapiers. Unfortunately, the Rapiers had a reaction and returned fire and brought the Contemptor down to a single wound. On the Night Lord's first move, On my right, the Rhino rushed forward, dumped tactical troops inside, and the troops ran forward to take and contest the objective. The Sicaran moved around to the side of the ruin to stay in cover from the Kratos, but was able to draw a line of sight to my tacticals. Jump troops advanced toward the center, ready to go either direction that they were required. On the Space Wolves' left, the other Rhino moved forward but didn't disembark its troops due to the Contemptor staying just outside of 12 inches. This was to avoid the Contemptor having any sort of reaction. The Vindicator also maneuvered to stay outside of 12 inches and to be able to draw a line of sight to the Contemptor with its main gun. So the slaughter begins. Between the Sicaran, the Rhino, and the Tactical, the Space Wolves lost over half the squad. And we were forced over 3 inches away from the objective due to the unit cohesion rules being what they are. The Speaker, despite enacting the medic reaction, was unable to save anyone. This would net the Night Lords 3 victory points for the objective, plus 2 for the line troop bonus, for a total of 5 at the end of the turn. On the other side, the Dreadnought was brought down by overwhelming firepower, earning another 2 victory points for first strike. The turn ended with the Night Lords leading 7 victory points to 5. So now it's Space Wolves' turn 2. The Slayers finally came out of the ruins, with the Caster of Ruins following as fast as he could with his Terminator armor, heading toward the Night Lords' assault squad. The survivors of the Tacticals and the Speaker of the Dead on the right do not move for fear of triggering a reaction, and on the left, the Praetor and the Tacticals move forward, staying in cover behind a ruin. In the assault phase, the Tacticals on the right declare a charge against their counterparts on the right objective, and the Slayers just inside the 12-inch range declare a charge against the assault troops. This was still possible as the Space Wolves get a bonus 2 inches to their setup move. If the Slayers roll a 6 in the final move, we can make it. After the setup move, the Slayers and the assault troops failed to do any damage to each other in the volley phase. Unfortunately, the Space Wolf Tacticals on the right lost 2 more troopers while the Night Lords lost 3. The Tacticals, now only 1 inch away, make the final charge into the Night Lord Tacticals. Unfortunately, the Slayer failed to roll high enough to make it into contact with the assault troops. So now into our very first close combat. First, I don't know if a challenge was even possible. I believe all the Night Lords had was a sergeant in the squad, and I don't think it could actually accept a challenge. We still need to review that. However, neither Steve nor I wanted to try a challenge at this point because it was our first hand-to-hand, so we just went for straight combat. So the Speaker of the Dead got to attack first due to his higher initiative, and the Tacticals were all simultaneous attacks. The results: the Speaker killed off 4 Night Lords in the first swing. Yuck. Surprisingly, the Wolves do no further damage, but the Night Lords take out the last 2 Tacticals, leaving the Speaker alone. Night Lords lose the combat by 2 and fail their morale tests, so the Night Lords break off and run away. I was very tempted to take and chase them down. However, this being a victory point based game, the Speaker of the Dead stayed so he could stay within 3 inches of the objective and grabbed another 3 points for the Space Wolves. Night Lords, turn 2. The assault squad moves and surrounds the Speaker of the Dead. If you look closely, there's supposed to be 1 inch space all around him. He will suffer a wound in the shooting phase. The fleeing Tacticals fail their leadership and continue to fall back into the ruins. The Rhino moved forward to block line of sight and movement of the Kratos to prevent him from shooting or moving into the center of the table. The Sakaran moved towards the center to draw a line of sight to the Slayers. On the Wolves' left, the other Rhino unloaded all its troops now that the Contemptor was gone, and they moved toward the Wolf, and the Rhino moved toward the Wolves' tactical squad, forming a block to prevent the Wolves from assaulting the Tacticals. The Tacticals moved forward, surrounding the objective, and in the shooting phase, the Sakaran, the Vindicator, and the Rapier pound the Slayers. This ended up killing 6 of my Slayers, but the Slayers managed to pass morale. The Rhino on the Wolves' left takes shots at the Tacticals, but I don't remember how many casualties. But the Tacticals were fine with the Praetor's leadership in that area. The only combat in the assault phase was once again the Speaker versus the assault squad on the Wolves' right. Once again, the Speaker swings first because of his higher initiative, and only kills 2 models this time. The assault troops cause a wound, but wounds don't count anymore. You only change the resolution by removing models, so the Space Wolves win by 2. Assault troops pass their morale test and decide to stay engaged. Now, day of the battle, I gave victory points to the Night Lords for this. Rereading the rules, neither of us could have claimed the objective as we were still locked in combat. On the other side, the Tacticals claim the other objective and gain another 5 victory points. Again, 3 for the objective and 2 for line troops. So that turn ended with the Night Lords leading 12 versus 8. So onward to Space Wolves turn 3. The Praetor and the Tacticals move forward and charge the Rhino. The Slayers move toward the Tacticals on the objective. The Night Lords used this move to react and moved away from the objective and out of the assault range of the Slayers. The Kratos, being blocked, turns all its weapons onto the Rhino on the Wolves' right, and the Speaker of the Dead looks around at all the assault troops surrounding him. In the shooting phase, the Kratos obliterated the Rhino. This was our first vehicle versus vehicle shooting. And let's face it, it's hard to tell how the vehicle rules really affect it when you have a poor Rhino facing off side armor against 4 las cannons, a autocannon, and the main battle cannon of a Kratos. There was no question that Rhino was gone. We didn't remove the wrecks. This would cause me issues the longer the game went on. The Speaker of the Dead in the assault phase kills another couple of assault marines and wins combat once more. This time the assault marines decide to flee. Now, in theory I could have tried to run them down, but if I had, the Speaker would have been exposed to shooting next turn for no points. I decided to hold position and gain 3 victory points instead of going after them. So, Night Lords, turn 3. Steve finally made his reserve row, and the Terminators dropped in right beside the remains of my Slayer squad. The Tacticals moved forward just within 3 inches, making a charge to the Slayers or the Tacticals possible, but unlikely. And the firing squad formed up for the Speaker of the Dead. Big surprise, he's not going to survive this shooting phase. The Rapier and the Tactical squad opened up on the Wolves, killing 1 or 2. With the Praetor there was no concern about failing morale. As the Terminators decided to shoot at the Slayers used the Space Wolf Advanced Reaction Bestial Savagery to charge into the Terminators after the shooting. Long story short, the only survivor was the Caster of Ruins. Steve's leader, Praetor I believe, called a challenge, and this was what took the longest to figure out. In the end, after much calculations and rule reading, the Night Lord got to swing first, and in spite of having cataphract armor, I failed enough saves that the caster died before he could even swing once. So we didn't really get a chance to see a second phase in a challenge. In the Night Lord's assault phase, nothing happens. The tacticals stayed where they were, and they can claim another 5 victory points. So the Night Lords ended up in the lead still, 15 to 11. We thought it was 17-13 at the time. And at this point, I decided to call the game. I only had the Creator left on the extreme right, very powerful, but blocked by a Rhino wreck, and a partial squad of tacticals. Yes, my Praetor was still there, but we didn't have enough to contest the objective, and the Rapier and the Vindicator were still right there to take and kill us. Also, we were running late due to much rules cross-checking, as it was our first game. So no turn 4, which is an automatic win for the Night Lords. With the Night Lords obviously having more units on the table, they got the last man standing for another 4 points, and someone mentioned to me that they also should have gotten another 3 points for massacres, so that would have taken it down to 22 points versus Space Wolves 11. So, what lessons did we learn? Well, characters in Assault are nasty against your standard troopers. Assaults are much more complicated. You need to take it slow the first few times. We were definitely having to reread those rules multiple times. Dreadnoughts are nowhere near as dangerous or as tough as they were before. Yes, they still have an invulnerable save, but the dropping of the ballistic skill from 5 to 4 really made a difference to the Contemptor. Weapons damage rating is much more important, so pay attention to weapon choices. While the Contemptor got taken out very quickly, it wasn't because of the number of hits. I actually did make quite a few. It was the fact that the saves that I failed did more damage. Things we need to test more. Challenges. That's the first one on my list. It took us a long time to figure it out. I think we did it right, but it'll take a few more tries before we're comfortable and we can do it more smoothly. Assault phase, again, I think we did it correctly, but the entire system has changed. It's no longer rolling 2d6 and moving forward. You got the setup move, then you have the volley fire, and then you're rolling 2 dice, but you're only taking 1 dice to see how far you go. So how far you can move forward in the setup is very important, and you may not even want to move forward in the setup for fear of starting a reaction. So it's something, again, we're going to have to play with the different reactions, because all the reactions are new, and again, they all work slightly differently. So again, more practice, more trial and error. Tank versus tank shooting. Yeah, we destroyed rhinos, but there was really nothing heavy shooting at my Kratos. So we didn't really have tank versus tank shooting, or even anti-tank versus tank shooting. Like I said, a rhino standing up side armor against the Kratos with 4 las cannons. By themselves, the las cannons destroyed the rhino. I didn't even have to shoot the autocannon or the battle cannon. The other issue was with creating army lists. Steve was a little concerned that my list was not correct because he misread part of the instructions. And while I understood what it was he used to justify his separate detachments, I didn't actually go back and follow up on those. I took him at his word. What do I think of the new rules? Well, movement phase really hasn't changed that much except for vehicles. you're no longer dealing with the speed bands as far as I can tell. Standing still, combat speed, and full speed all used to affect your ballistic skills and what weapons you could fire. That seems to be gone. Shooting phase, the general shooting, nothing has really changed other than if you are doing snapshots, you're no longer stuck at 6+. It totally depends on what your ballistic skill. There is a table in the shooting phase that shows the better your ballistic skill, the lower your snapshots values are. Space Marines at 4+ typically hit on a 5 now instead of a 6. Assault phase, that's where everything changes. The fact that they've worded it out so much, I was commenting to someone, it looks like an American set of rules because you have phases with sub-phases with more phases inside. Now, it is much more complex than what we had before, which was basically roll 2d6 and you strike at initiative unless you have a power fist. It does make for challenges to be more interesting because there is a random factor to determine who swings first. Also, the fact that so many melee weapons have initiative modifiers, you potentially could have many more fighting steps with the regular troops. A lot of these weapons now have -1 initiative, -2 initiative. I think I even saw -3 initiative. And of course, your basic, swords are hitting at your regular initiative. So throwing in certain things will definitely create more bands or groupings of combat. So that'll take some getting used to. Challenges, as near as I can tell, are probably going to take a lot of time if you don't kill each other right away, because you can fight multiple rounds in a challenge in the same turn. There are ways of breaking out of it, but again, that's the one. Challenges is probably the one phase I'm most concerned about. I need to reread those rules and the gambits, which affect how the combat works. So if you're thinking about doing assault, you may want to skip challenges for the first game or two and really review the sequence for challenges and how the gambits work. So what I liked, it's definitely a different game than 40K, much more detail, much more granular. I like the fact that while you are not required to bring specific troops anymore, you are very much encouraged because line troops get you those extra victory points when they capture objectives. And if you want to take and go crazy and have a whole bunch of extra detachments, you need to make certain choices to get access to those detachments to your primary detachment. I think a 1,500 point size battle will give you enough to get through the basics quite easily. I can see 2,000 being a very common game threshold. GW once again is suggesting 3,000 points for the main game, but when we played this game it took well over 3 hours, and that's not including setup and pack up time. So that was for 1,500 points. So I think it'll be a while before some people do a full 3,000 point tournament. Some people may not want to even do a 3,000 point game, because to do that you have to have more heroes or more items in your primary detachment that will allow you to take multiple other detachments. So overall, I don't think the game is bad. There's a lot of aspects that I like better than the original version 2 that I was playing. It's just going to take me a while to get used to it to handle the game more quickly. I definitely recommend people give it a try. You don't necessarily need to buy the new big box set to play the game. I would recommend, though, that you download the new, what do they call it, Ages of Legion or whatever, the new PDF that's supposed to show all the missing units and weapons. I will note that my Space Wolf army, I really counted on stalkers. There are no rules for the stalkers at this time, either in the main codex or in the PDF. But the way GW is wording things, they're supposed to be bringing out more PDFs with more units in the future, so we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope it's useful for people. Let me know what you think, and have a good day.